Hello and welcome back. 2x2 Hands of Blue, if you know that reference. Put it in the comments down below. I have been told I've got to tell people to click subscribe and like and comment and all that stuff. It's called a call to action. And this is how it works. If you do that stuff, we get to go sailing more. It's just like, that's how simple it is. We just want line goes up. So put things in the comment as we go along. I'll try and remember to ask you questions. Thank you very much to everyone who wrote to me, not least Simon Zay, who helped me deliver one of the Whitbread 60s round from California. This little thing up here, it's a weed cutter. Of course it is. That makes absolute sense. I literally didn't know that. But if it's a weed cutter, my God, we're going to put like a scalpel edge on it. Like if there's an idea that could possibly help something that's caught around the rudder. As a solo sailor, entering the water is a very precarious option. The open 60 actually was a lot easier to get back on board. This would be Hollywood blockbuster of not great interest. Me stuck in the middle of nowhere trying to get at the back of the boat. We should probably think about that. So what do we got going on? The water line has been cleaned up. In fact, both stripes have been quite heavily sanded with probably coming in about 220 grit. The reason I'm kind of like thinking about it is because it's a little, I haven't got an example now, but it's a little like sponge sandy pad thing. I think it's around, whatever it is, certainly keyed up enough to take on a coat of paint. But as I kept coming down and looking back up, I realized I'm making like clean spots, which then means to me I'm not completely keying up the surface. And one thing I don't want to do is put the paint on and go, ta-da, it looks great, and then in 18 months time a load of single pot paint is slowly wiping its way off the side of the boat. It needs preparing properly, and it exceeds the amount of time and effort and money that I can put into the project in the yard time I've got now. So I've got to think a little bit higher up the protocol of what's going on here, the hierarchy of what's going on here. We've got the paint literally on the floor over there for the stripes. We will continue to sand them and prepare them, and I don't care if they're matte because I hate them anyway. But at least they won't be dark orange and nearly brown. And then when we're at a point where they're like prepped ready for paint and we go in the yard, then we can do it. And maybe what we'll do actually is, maybe I'll give them the paint back now and we'll just do it in something like two-pack paint. That's the problem with single pack paint. It's so much cheaper, but literally this paint on this boat is 25 years old and we could polish it up and it would probably look fine. Note to self, would be a lot easier to do that. Okay, what else are we doing? Getting some tape on the bottom here now, and all of that's been tidied up. We're getting the Interprotect onto the keel, and this is kind of the big job I've been doing. That's what I was pushing for in that last video, to kind of take you through the details of this. So if you've done this kind of job before, this may or may not look the way that you do it. Let me talk you through my kind of thoughts on it. Underneath here we've now got the metal that I sanded back like as well as I can sand in the amount of time I've got available, because it's still all bound by reality, right? What we want to do is get the metal into a situation where it's got a sacrificial protection, which this Interprotect, this epoxy primer, etches into the metal and is high zinc, which means that the metal is provided with extra electrons to deal with any corrosion that may start to occur inside it. So the zinc is sacrificed in the way that an anode is, but it's in the paint, bish bash bosh, all good. It's epoxy, so if you can get enough of it on, it'll act as like a kind of completely sealed vessel around the keel, even though theoretically it could be disconnected in 50% of its contact area. It is still attached and it's sealing in the metal from being exposed to the water. My experience, when you get divots in the side of the keel, some of these are from paint, some of these are from where there's been galvanic action on the side of it. None of it's more than like 10 thou thick, 10 thou deep rather. To get them out, you would need to remove material from the keel, which is insane because that's mechanical strength and you're taking it off for aesthetics on something you can't see. So we're not doing that, so we are putting filler in them. My experience has been, if you put the filler directly into it, you clean it up as much as you can, wire brush it, acetone, all that stuff, you get the filler in there, it's great, and it does bond very, very well to metal, but it doesn't bond as well as etch primer And my experience is that you put the primer over the top of it, and then when you come back to it later on, you've got some damage to the paint, and it's separated from the filler underneath, and the filler is separated from the metal, and now all that's happened is there's even more moisture is being kept in that bubble inside the pocket, with the paint over the top and the filler inside squidged up against the metal. By putting the primer completely into the divot, it's got direct interaction with the primer, which is high zinc, which means it's getting protection immediately. The filler goes on top of it, and then more paint will go on the outside of it, which means that if you do get some kind of breakout on the surface and the filler gets all interacting with the ocean around it, there's still another layer of protection below that before the metal gets involved in it, which is what we're ultimately trying to protect here. So down at the bottom, you see there's a little stripe of 5200s at the back. 5200s needs 3 millimeters wide to be able to make a kind of bond in there. It doesn't particularly like sticking onto shiny metals. It's very difficult trying to seal escutcheon plates and things on stainless steel. It's the same with the back of the well-locks keel here. So again, I painted inside as much as I can because the paint will stick very happily to the metal. And then the 5200s, what does it have to stick? It's not like an adhesive bond. It's being used as a filler. It goes in there, and that's because there used to be 5200s in there. Around the bottom there is epoxy, and the good thing was that it's real brittle, and you can like tweeze bits off if you want, but it's all still present, which tells me there's probably not very much like looseness in the system here, otherwise it would have shocked all that epoxy outside the keel long ago. So I'm not worried at all about these two bits being any way separated from each other. Up at the base plate here, we've been out of the water about 72 hours now, and there are no drips coming from the plate up there. Now, it's got all kinds of irregularities, and I think this is good evidence of the fact that, again, you know, they built these boats. I think this was number 4. Certainly the mast says it's number 4. They built them thinking they were going to be doing like a round the world thing, and then it didn't happen. So I'm sure it was kind of get them churned out, get them on the water, then we'll get a sponsor. The fact that this is not even properly fared in is pretty good indicator that is. But no rust strips or anything else. And again, just trying to like smooth out the keel a bit. If you see all this rust stuff down here, I have in my toolbox lots of my father's tools, and it gives me great pleasure to reach in and see some tool that I was also reaching for when I was an 8-year-old boy in the workshop. So I reached for the spatula, which is now pretty clean. Went through the fire that destroyed my dad's last sort of successful garage. It's like a piece of crap to anybody else, but means a lot to me. But when I put it to work on the side of the keel here in the gloaming in the middle of the night, it took me a little while to realize that I was actually wiping rust all over the place. So that's on me, but whatever. I don't think the rust is going to change much about anything. So I'm going to go up here now and splat on a bit more on the bottom, and we're pretty much good to go there. So what this will mean then is that if I'm looking at this as like the boat's going to come out again in about 100 days, that would be like my dreamscape. You know, we've had the boat for a number of years, but basically like haven't used it. It's just been sitting in the water because we were like, the music stopped during COVID. It's like, oh, so I guess I'm just going to look after this boat 3 times a week, 4 years on end, with no idea of how we're going to use it. So all of these things now to be checked, almost like it's a brand new boat to me. Although I've already sailed it like 20,000 miles, but looking good on the keel, putting lots of work in. I think what I've done there is probably good for maybe 2 or 3 years. I'm not expecting any more than that from it. In the intervening time, I've checked all the hull over. I'm not worried about anything below the waterline. I know what's going on with the prop. So I'm happy now that what I've put on there is going to be at least 3 years. It'll be able to protect the keel. It'll be able to offer sacrificial protection. And even when I look at how much of the original Interprotect was on the keel, it was less than 50%, and that's them working with a bare keel in a professional shipyard setting, and they've got all the chemical they want, you know, access to. So we'll do better than that in the next 3 years. So it's better protected now than it was. There's things I'd like to change about it. In the intervening time, I'm just going to slap paint on here now for mostly aesthetic reasons. The Interprotect in grey is still there, or it's a hard anti-foul underneath. And then we've got this blue, which is very thin and slapped on by the previous owners. So what we're going to do is I've jet washed it only, which is how all the fishermen here do their boats. Do you really think they're sanding the bottom of their boats? Then we're going to slap more ablative anti-foul on, and we're going to look at the fact that that will last about 90 to 100 days. Then when we get the boat out again, I will know I've got a different kind of job. I'm going to stage differently. I'm going to have different machinery here, and we're going to do a trick where we get the anti-foul off really quickly with gun wash and newspaper and big sheets of 6mm poly, and we'll have all that off back to the primer in 2 days. And once that's done, we won't do anything to the keel, to the P bracket, but we will swap the prop out. Now the great thing is that because we've had the prop in hand here, obviously not underwater, can actually get the proper measurements off the propeller, make sure we're ordering the exact right propeller from Max Prop, which are on the west coast of the US. So when it comes time to swap this out, which it looks like it'll be the next go round now, budgetary wise, that'll be all of the P brackets done, the anode will be on, everything's understood with that situation, and it'll be just take off that prop and put the other prop on and keep that as a spare. It's a very good fixed prop, but you know, I'd rather have that than nothing if the other prop goes knacky at sea. And the rudder will be done, all the fillings done on the rudder. So I will just deal with the underbody of the boat, and that's like an achievable thing to get to the highest level we want to be at. And then the time after, we take the boat out a year later, and we can media blast the keel back to bare metal, and then rebuild this from a completely bare bones basis and refair the front of the keel. And then after 2-3 more cycles before everything's perfect. If I tried to make everything perfect now, we'd never get out the boatyard, we'd never come in on budget, we'd lose the entire reins of what's going on with the plot. You cannot, as a farmer, get too worried about lining all the seeds up perfectly in the furrow, because what we're actually trying to do is feed hungry children. This is just a step along the way. We're trying to sail west around the world, so we have to build on top of it. We only got one little scraper, one little me. So if we come out of this now with our appendages under control, we know what's going on, and aesthetically we look okay, and the stripes are another step closer to recolor, I'll call that a win. Because the real reason I'm here is to get the mast off, to check the mast and do the rigging and everything else, and just inspect the bottom of the boat. Everything else is cream. So it's all going pretty good here. What else we got going on? We're ordering the mainsail. I'm going to wrap this one up now, I think, so that I can get on with the work. I've been awake all night again, as you can probably tell. I've got eyes like piss holes in the snow. But it's been very, very beneficial. But I want to get into the water as soon as I can. I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste money on the dock, because each day here is like $1,500 on between this boat and that mast. There's a lot of space being taken up in this yard. So they're doing a great job here at Portland Yacht Services. But I want to get back in the water, and then I'll stop worrying about the hull and I'll focus all my time on the mast. But I've been ordering the mainsail. It goes into production in a couple days time in Italy, and we're getting all the details worked out. I just want to preload the fact that this is the only mainsail you're ever going to come across that has 5 reefs in it. So my round the world boat for Clipper had 3 reefs and then my Open 60 had 4 reefs. So I was like, how can I better that? And it's with the 5 reef mainsail. So I'm going to tell you the story about the 5 reef mainsail in the next one. If you haven't already, click like, subscribe, and do all that stuff down below. When people that make these channels say it helps a lot, it helps a lot because it tells the algorithm, oh, there's another person that's interested in this, and they got all the way to the end of it and they're doing something, and then it will put it out to more people, and more people equals line goes up equals we get to go sailing in this monster more together. So I hope you've enjoyed this, a little look around if you're watching videos of me in a boatyard talking about bilge coatings and painting the ballast, God help you. It looks pretty good from where I am right now, but I'll get on with this, rust stains and all. We get one step closer to me getting in the water and getting across the Atlantic to the Fastnet and on to our exploration of ancient civilizations, which I haven't forgotten about. I'm just feeling quite a long way away from it right now, but I'll speak to you in the next one. Cheers.